We're gonna break down the mess that was Lanemeyer.
Oh, what a mess it was.
Oh, what a mess. Welcome, everyone, to This Was the Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 New Jersey punk rock scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. Lanemeyer was a band formed by my best friend Chris Barker and myself back in 1998 after the demise of our first band, Congress of Cow, which was named after a sexual position we found in a Kama Sutra book in the Rockaway Mall, just in case anyone was wondering. The original lineup included Alan Rappaport on guitar and Sean Smith on drums. Through the years, we had a revolving door of members that included Robert Heiner, David Patino, Andrew Spratt, Brian Fallon, yes, Brian Fallon of Gaslight Anthem, and the Casey Lee Morgan. We were lucky enough to put out 2 CDs, go on 8 tours, have kids sing our songs back to us at shows, all while being held together as a band by Scotch tape. We were basically a ticking time bomb at all times, which you will hear about more in this interview. I love this band. I wanted it to be my life. I wanted to sell out giant clubs, live my life on the road, and have thousands of people sing our songs back to us in venues all over the country. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, that didn't happen. I didn't start this podcast with my ex-band in mind, and then I thought it would be kind of cool to talk to Mr. Sean Smith about what went right and all of the things that went wrong. So that's what we did. In this interview, I talked to Sean about how we met him while he was working at Hot Topic, Chris and myself almost dying after our first practice with Sean, who came up with the name Lanemeyer, the beginning of the revolving door of guitar players, what it was like for Sean to book tours without this thing called the internet, the shit show that was designing the cover of Stories for the Big Screen, our first tour, kicking Sean out of the band and then getting him back in when we were going to break up as a band, the story of Casey wanting to kill Chris, the Brian Fallon era, which was for a hot minute, Sean's hidden alcoholism during the last tour, how I thought Sean was on his way to kill me after I officially quit, and a bunch more. Before we begin, thank you again to all the people who've donated any money to the podcast. If you would like to do this as well, then just go to thiswasthescene.com. There's a donation button, and you can send $1 or whatever you want. Make sure you check out Sean's clothing company for all you hockey enthusiasts out there. It's called hockeycultureapparel.com. The website shall be live next week, so bookmark that shit and mark your calendars. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. Mr. this is my cool way of introducing you, Mr. Sean Smith. What's up, man?
What's up, man?
So if anyone doesn't know, Sean was the drummer of the band Lanemeyer that I was in back in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s. And Sean, I would give him the credit for the reason why we actually got to get out of New Jersey and actually become a band, touring band. So we're gonna break down the mess that was Lanemeyer.
Oh, what a mess it was.
Oh, what a mess. But yeah, man. So where are you these days?
I'm living in St. Petersburg, Florida. So I've been down here, I don't know, a little over a dozen years, I guess. I don't even know. But I recently been kind of getting my foothold back in New Jersey. So
Really?
kind of, yeah, eventually, gonna sort of do like a quasi snowbird thing. So I guess I never thought I'd be down here as long as I have been. And you just start to miss like home and where you're from and things like that. So I've been, going back up there a lot, and that's the goal, is to have a place there and a place here.
Oh shit. Well, that's a good segue. So let's talk about Jersey. Let's talk about how you. Well, there's 2 questions I want to start with. It's really how you started playing drums, but how'd you get involved in the punk scene to begin with?
Oh, I just gotta say, Doyle, you sound so professional. I'm so impressed.
Don't worry, I'll start fucking up later.
You're like Howard Stern. It's crazy. Okay.
I am.
The punk scene. I think when I think about how I got into punk rock in general, I want to say that I have to credit like Thrasher magazine, actually, because I would always read the reviews on all the CDs and stuff in that magazine, and I was very bored and like with what was on the radio. So I think I would just like find those bands and start, looking for the tapes and stuff. Yeah, that's right. I said cassette tapes, right? Because there was no other way to find bands back then. So that's kind of how I got into it. And I was like a skater kid, and that was kind of like the lifestyle. And I never wanted to like conform to like radio rock or whatever at the time. And then, but being a punk rock kid, I still never knew that there was like hall shows and stuff. Like I would go to shows in the city and all that stuff. And because that was like easy to find. But like the first hall show I stumbled on, I think it might have been a Weston show. I was like, what the fuck? Like there's this going on. Like all these kids are here and this is like just some random hall show. Like, so that was amazing. That was like the biggest like change for me right there. It just opened up so much.
That seems to be the constant theme when I talk to everybody is they just stumbled upon these hall shows, and it was like they opened the door and they're like, what is this? What is this magic that's happening here?
Why are you people here? This is American Legion Hall. What the hell are you doing here?
Why are we all wearing Jinko jeans?
Wait, why are my pants so big?
So wait, you saw Weston. I mean, I don't want to jump around too much, but where was the Weston show?
You know what? I can't even remember. I want to say that it was in Pennsylvania, though. I think we drove out there, I think. But I want to say the first Jersey show might have been one of like your Congress of Cow shows. Like I can't even remember my first hall show, really. It was one of those two.
No shit. Yeah, I literally can. That's like one of the reasons I started this. I can remember so much crap back then. But yeah, we'll get back to that. Because I can remember like the first Congress of Cow show. I can remember like the first Lanemeyer show, the weekend stuff, which we'll get into. But
right.
So let's talk about drums, man. When did you start playing drums, and like what got you into it?
Oh man. So sometime in grammar school, I got a drum set. But I always used to say, and it's very true though, that I didn't even play it for I don't even know how many years because I just didn't know how. Like I would hit the snare and the bass drum at the same time. I was like, wait, that doesn't sound right. I'd get frustrated. I was too shy to like take lessons or something. So I pretty much sat in my room and collected dust forever. But then around the same time that I kind of discovered punk rock is when I wanted to start playing drums again. And I guess that was like sometime in early high school. But ironically, the band that really got me into really playing drums and getting better at it was not a punk rock band. It was this band called Helmet, and their drummer. I just like learned that whole album, and I finally figured out like how to do some things on my own, and that really was the start of me like sort of being able to play drums, I guess. I'm not like Neil Peart by any means, but like I definitely loved it. So I just wanted to be in a band. I didn't even want to like be good at it. I just wanted to be in a band.
Yeah. So like that kind of brings us how we connected. And so I remember what was like a couple weeks ago we were talking about how you and I first met, and it was basically so if I'll kind of like talk about my timeline and then mesh it with yours about what you were doing that time. So Chris and I had just graduated high school, and we were going to like county college of Morris, and we hated it. And but at that time, either anywhere you could find us would either be or Chris's house, like playing music, or at D. Maselli's, who was our drummer at the time, in his downstairs practicing Congress of Cow shit, or just somewhere around Jefferson, or at the fucking mall, the Rockaway Mall. And then Hot Topic opened, and we started going there because I think Josh Humble, he started working there, and we would go in anyway just because that's where all the CDs and music were. And then you and I would just randomly just be like, hey, what's going on or whatever, and then you were managing the store.
Right.
So then that led to us having a conversation, and I think where we started really talking is I bought an Insane Clown Posse CD. Because Bob and Skinny we were on like vacation in Florida, and some kid down there from Hawaii kept talking about like ICP, and I'm like, what is this shit? So I'm thinking this is gonna be the greatest band of all time. I buy this piece of shit, and I try to return it, and you're like, dude, I'm not taking that back.
Not only was I not going to take it back because we weren't allowed to take open CDs back, but I just didn't want that horrible band back in my store. I was happy that it was out of there.
Yeah, and I think that was the first time that you and I had more of a conversation than just, hey, what's going on? But so that was kind of like, that was like a year or two leading up to that. And so in that time period, because you were older, you were like 4 years older than us. So you were already in your 20s. You were like legally able to drink while we were still not. And
Right.
so you were, in your 20s, and then that led you to managing there. So like, what was that transition from college to there, high school there? Like, what was that?
Yeah, well, I was away at college at University of Delaware, and I didn't like it. And
Oh my God, I forgot
um,
you fucking went to Delaware.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I wasn't into it. I was up and down with, grades and just, I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I was playing a lot of hockey and coming back home anyway. So I came back home, got a job somehow in the mall somewhere, like not in Rockaway, but it was another company. And then like Hot Topic came to me to try to recruit me to go to this store, which I did. And it ended up being pretty cool because as cheesy as Hot Topic can be, I guess, and I don't know how it is nowadays, but back then in that area, there was nothing around for people like you to go buy, CDs or anything at. Like, I think we were like the number one store in the company for like CDs
Oh wow.
for that category. So it was pretty cool in that way. So it was kind of like the most punk Hot Topic around, I would think, because I mean, we had Josh from Humble Beginnings. I mean, we had Brian Granick, who's like the scene stir extraordinaire.
Yeah, Granick.
A lot of people that were in bands or that would go to shows like on a Friday or Saturday when we got out of work or whatever. I mean, half the store was going to a show, I mean, we all were into the same stuff. So that was, pretty cool. And, that was the one upside to working for like a corporate, stupid mall store.
I thought that was the funny thing too, because the people who did work there were big scene stirs, and I felt that you guys, like, you were there for a job, but it was also kind of a, man, we're really into this scene, but we're also working for this store that's taking something that exists and trying to corporatize it, or make it something that it's not. But I think having you guys there, it definitely added that credibility to a sense, to a degree.
Yeah, it was definitely cool. Like I said, for the area, I mean, there was nothing else around there. We had a little, a little good cast of punk rock characters, I guess. So
Yeah.
it was good while it lasted.
So this is how I remember we met. We're in Congress a Cow, DiMaselli, we're like, dude, we want to tour. And he decided, he was dating a girl at the time, and I think, we were, man, shit, 19, 18, and we just graduated high school, and he didn't want to tour, and he decided that he was going to go to school, and he was really big into like lifting and shit. I think he just wanted to be this big Italian muscly guy who got married at 20. And I think we were at Del Vecchio's house when because we were playing Congress Cow. We were friends with Humble, and we're out to Vecchio's. Had this giant blowout fight with Jeff because he just decided he didn't want to do it. And then we were like, fuck, well, we need to get a drummer now. So we play our final show with Jeff, which is funny because I think it was at Fallon's show that he put on in like Rockaway, or no, like Blairstown or something like that. Or Hackettstown. It was Hackettstown.
Okay.
Yeah. So he puts on the show. We play this last show with him, meet one cool guy, and then we're looking for a drummer, and we just randomly walk into Hot Topic on one day, and you came up to me and you're like, "Hey, dude, I heard you're looking for a drummer. What the fuck? Why didn't you ask me?"
Really? I don't remember.
Do you remember that?
Not really. I mean, I remember us talking somehow about me, joining up with you guys. I always kind of thought it was through Josh for some reason, but maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
He might have mentioned that we were looking for a drummer, and because you guys are really good friends
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, because you came up to me and I was like, oh, okay. And so I remember I ran out because that's the ledge outside of the store, the front of the store. There was just this ledge that we'd all hang out and sit there. And I ran out. I'm like, Chris, fucking Sean apparently is a drummer. And then we both went back inside and started talking to you and set up our time to, try you out. Do you remember that?
Actually, I do remember that now that we're talking about it. And I actually remember, so what, you guys came to my house, right? To try out, wasn't it? Yeah. And I remember that we played, I guess, what were Congress of Cow songs probably.
Yeah.
And I remember, so like, my drumming back then, like I had never played or tried to even play like in a fast punk rock band. Like I didn't play like the No Effects beat or whatever you would call it.
Yeah.
Which was like a thing, right? So I remember when you guys were like, "Oh, these are the songs we're gonna do," and then like there was like one fast one. Now, no offense to Jeff, when I listened to the song, I mean, the speed was all over the place when I listened to the song, but I was like, okay, I can't do that. I have to like play this fast song, like at a, at a normal pace, like consistent.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I'm done. Like, there's no way. Like, I've never did that. I don't know. And then I remember we played the song. I can't remember how it sounded. It was probably bad. But and then you guys came back to me later on. You're like, yeah, we're just not going to play that song. And I was like, that's probably a good idea.
I think that was the song. It was called We Lift. It was just super fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we recorded that in I think we demoed that in Jefferson High School, the band room or something like that. Or was it there? No, fuck. We demoed that at Badami's. That's how we met Chris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so we actually, really funny story. We had that shitty blue van, which we called Bruce. And I think we bought it for
Right.
$200. And Laura Ladishev ended up helping us find it and then buying the van. So we had this shitty van. We left your house that night and we're driving down the Fairlawn on 46. And me and Chris are talking, and I look up, and the light had turned red, and I'm still driving like 50 miles an hour, and I'm about 30 yards from it. So I ended up slamming on the brakes and almost flying into the lane and getting killed.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you about that. Yeah, it was. I looked over, I'm like, holy shit, we almost just died. But yeah, that was the first night that we left. So we go home. We ended up. I even forget how we were like, hey, dude, yeah, we're we want you in the band. So it was us. It was the three of us, and then somehow we got Alan. I think Chris went to Flipside in Pompton Lakes, and he was talking to Alan, and Alan was playing guitar. And then the four of us got together at backstage and practiced.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, and I think then we decided to kind of start weeding out the Congress songs and start incorporating, like that's where we started making like the Lanemeyer songs, even though we were still called Congress a Cow, but we were trying to be like, all right, we're not Congress a Cow, we have to make a new band name up.
Right. And I think Alan came up with the name, right?
Yeah, I was in Austin, Texas, visiting my dad, and I got a phone call from Chris. He's like, I think we have the name. And he goes, and I remember we came up with all these shitty names. And he said, we're going to call it Lanemeyer. And I'm like, oh, I like that. What is that? He says, oh, it's the dude from Better Off Dead. It's his character name, but we're going to spell it different. We're going to make it one word. And I was like, oh, my God, I fucking love it. And yeah, so we came back, and then we just basically we would like backstage. It was either backstage or your basement where we would practice.
Oh, we definitely started at backstage. I don't know that we ever practiced in the beginning in my basement because my basement was probably still a mess at that point.
Yeah.
I think I only cleaned the basement out to like have practice there at a certain point. And
no, that show you had, that basement show you had.
Yeah, I had a couple basement shows. Yeah, so I mean that was the most awkward basement show you could ever play. Like, hey, everybody, you got to come in through the side door. You got to come into my living room, go down the cellar stairs, and that's where the show is. It was like so. It was so weird, but they were fun. But you can only get like 20 people down there.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah. Well, we got more than 20, but technically, I mean, I don't know how people fit. It was pretty nutty.
That happened. We started playing a show, and our first show, do you remember this? It was we went
South Jersey, right?
South Jersey. It was two shows. Yep. We played two shows that day. We played in South Jersey at the Springman CD release party of Shower with the Goats.
Mm-hmm.
And then we drove up to Wayne Skaters World to play the second show.
Right. Okay, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. And then that's pretty much like where we were playing consistently and just kind of figuring it out. When we played like Imre's basement and started really just kind of figuring like the sound out like around that time.
Did we ever figure the sound out?
I think we did. I think. I mean, I think it's just bad.
I mean, we had something. I'm not sure what it was, but there was something there.
Yeah. So then, okay. So this is like just a lot of me talking. But I don't really want to get you to really, add your 2 cents. But so I'm just kind of like leading up. So we start doing this. We're playing all these shows, and we were like, we want to tour. And then we had a conversation, and Alan didn't want to tour. And then it was like, Chris called him and kicked him out, or we did it at backstage. Do you remember this?
I don't remember how we like separated with Alan. I just remember the conversation in a parking lot, like at some diner or whatever. And he basically was saying, guys, we suck. Like, we can't go on tour. And
yes.
like, I'm not saying he was wrong, but he definitely was like, we suck. We can't go on tour. But me, I had just seen a band at one of our shows that was on tour. and I can't remember who it was or anything, but they were so bad. Like I'm like, if this band is on tour, like anybody could go on tour, you know? I'm like, let's just have fun and go on tour. Like we have nothing else going on. We want to try this. And I think Alan had a girlfriend at the time, and I think
Yeah.
he didn't want to keep her. Like, wasn't he dating some hot like 12-year-old or something? Like she was like so young, but she
No,
was so hot.
he was
Yeah,
20 shit, because when we met, we were 18 and you think you were 23.
yeah,
And I think he was the same age, but he was dating an 18-year-old. So I think, yeah, she was 18 and he was 23, and then they started
yeah,
dating. And he had just bought this Jeep Grand Cherokee and got a real job and was starting to make money. And I think he was like, hey, man, I this is the direction I want to go in. And the three of us were like, fuck that shit. And Chris, I remember he was bummed out because Alan pretty much showed him the majority of Chris's bands that he knew. Like I think he
right.
got him into Jawbreaker and a lot of those, because Chris knew about No Effects, but then he'd go buy that shit. I think Alan would see it and be like, no, fuck that, dude. You know, listen to this or listen to this. So I
Yeah, I
think,
mean,
yeah, Chris was
Chris
kind
had
of
his man
bummed.
crush on Alan a little bit.
Oh,
But, I mean,
totally. Yeah, he was bummed.
yeah, he was bummed. But
So yeah,
which is kind of shocking if you look back because sometimes Chris, like, you couldn't get him on board sometimes, but with that, he was like the leader. Like, yeah, we're doing this, you know, which is interesting if you know our full history of that kind of stuff.
yeah. So that's the first guitarist we got rid of. That's the first member we kicked out or left.
Oh man,
Out of the many,
yeah.
which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, so then we get Heiner, and then all right, this is where I really want to start figuring this out, or like picking your brain and having you talk about this. So we decide, all right, we're going on tour, and I think it's like, man, like April or May or something, and you're like, I'll just do it. So you basically took over more like the management part of it, and you started getting us shows, and then you started booking the tour. So what was that like back then without Facebook and cell phones and all of this shit?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot more challenging than I guess it would be with today's technology, but you know, who knows? I
Like,
mean,
how'd you
all I
do it?
did
Like,
was
yeah, like talk
I
about how
just
you did it.
yeah, I just talked to as many people as I could and got, you know, and people that were on tour already and said, well, hey, you know, where do you book in this area or who's the contact? And I remember, I can't remember the guy's name now, but somebody like pretty much gave me his book of contacts and was like, listen, write everything down in here. And it was somebody from a punk rock band in like DC or something. This guy just gave me a ton of stuff, you know, and you know, it kind of just started from there and just talking to as many people as I could, getting as many contacts. And, you know, the first tour, I mean, you guys were like, oh my God, I can't believe how good this was. And you guys were like so pumped up from it. And I was just like, wow, like that worked. Like, I
Yeah.
can't believe I pulled that off. I mean, you know, I'm not saying we played to 500 kids or anything, but I mean, we didn't have any days off really. We were playing with pretty decent bands. People were coming on the shows, even if it was a show that was 20 kids in a living room, like it was better than a day off, you know, and it just really was half luck and half just that I was like obsessive about it, just making sure we played every day and that, you know, we were successful, at least, you know, having that route planned.
Yeah. I mean, were you emailing these guys or just calling? Because I remember, like, you had your office in your house, you had a map up on the wall, and it would show the dates and the direction in the areas where we play. And
Yeah.
I remember when we'd go on tour, I always would write it down in my calendar, and I'd have it there just so I knew was like excited for something that was happening in a month or two, because you're booking the whole thing. But I mean, I remember you were like, "Yeah, we're gonna be in." I think we started off. We drove right out to Ohio and stayed with Saturday
Right.
Supercade and played that house show where we
Mhm.
met Trevor, and then, but like, we're like, it was, I think you got the contact for Saturday Supercade because of Matt.
Yeah. That was from Red Leader Matt.
Yeah.
And yeah, that turned out to be good. That was definitely helpful. But you know, it was all a combination of those kind of contacts. You know, somehow I stumbled onto whoever was booking Discount at the time.
Oh yeah.
Got I think a show or two with them. You know, very rarely did I have to like send a demo or do anything like that. It was more just, you know, persistent emailing and getting calling cards to, you know, make sure you're, you know, because back then your phone bill would add up, or if you're out of your house and I couldn't use my mom's telephone or whatever, you know, I
Yeah.
had to use calling cards. So it was pretty crazy, but I mean, you know, I enjoyed it. That was the thing. It was very exciting.
How do you think you would have done that now? Do you think it would have been Like, do you look at the technology now and you're like, fuck, man, if I just had this, or we could have promoted ourselves like this? Like, do you see that the
Yeah,
possibility would have been so much different?
sure. I mean, I remember when it was just MySpace, I'd be like jealous, like, wow, we didn't even have MySpace to like talk to people and get shows because I saw, people doing that at a certain point. But, at the same time, when we were on tour, there were good things like gas was like under $1,
Yeah.
So, and you could actually sell your CDs. There wasn't even Napster yet when we first started, right? So we could actually sell CDs and T-shirts and make money off that because we weren't really getting paid shit at the show as far as our guarantees, but we were making money off merch. And like, so maybe there's good and bad, but yeah, now I'm sure it's easier, but I don't know. I don't know how it is today on the road. I mean, I'd be the last person to ask about that right now, but
I can't imagine. I'm so far removed. I mean, I was thinking about it. This has been 20 years ago,
I know.
and like I'm so far removed from ever wanting to do that. Like, granted, a couple years ago I just traveled the country on my own, but it was different. I don't think I could be in a fucking van with a bunch of guys just driving 10 hours a day to play a fucking show that's 30 minutes at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, it's too torturous because what we always say, and everybody in the band that's ever toured knows this, you live your day for that 1 hour you're playing or
Yeah.
whatever. The other 23 hours, you think it's all excitement and stuff, but it's not. You're, in the van for 10 hours, or you're doing this, you're doing that. Like people will be like, oh, you went all these places. Yeah, but I don't remember, number one, like the cities. And number two, like I didn't get to explore because I was in the van for most of the time, like
Yeah.
listening to people fart and, do, do all the stupid
Fighting
shit.
over someone smoking cigarettes or
Yeah,
someone's
or
like choice of music when they're driving.
yeah, so it's like, and you didn't want a day off to explore. You wanted to be playing. So it just, you got to see the highways.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of cornfields, and that was basically it. And showing up these cities, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, is this the nice part of town? Is this the shitty part of town? Are we gonna die? Are we gonna
It
eat?
was probably the shitty part of town, but yes.
So let's talk about the first CD. So we started playing shows, and how'd you get hooked up with Matt?
Um, Matt he came to our shows and just never really talked to us. And then one day, just kind of approached me and was like, hey, I'm going to start this label. And if you remember, it was supposed to start out as Punk Uprisings Records or something like that, because that was
Yes.
a huge like compilation, that used to come out with
Go
him
kart.
and Susan Wells, if you remember her back in the day.
No,
She was big
wait.
into
Who was she? That name totally
she
sounds familiar.
she she was like Matt's like kind of partner in doing the Punk Uprisings, and like she was just I think she was maybe just sort of someone that was just big in the scene and wanted to, start a label. But she had like a lot of contacts and was doing a lot of stuff. I can't remember exactly because she was in the picture for such a small amount of time. Like, because Matt eventually just said, well, I don't think she wants to do it now. She doesn't want to do a label, and I'm just going to do it. So it went from Punk Uprisings to Red Leader Records.
Yeah, yeah, because you
So,
got that from Star Wars.
right, right. And so, and I guess we were going to be the first release. Like, he was super into us, and which was back then I was kind of shocked, like, wow, this person that like knows his shit wants to put a record out from us. Wow. So
Yeah, I mean, we would go to his apartment, and he always had that what was it? That faucet that never stopped running. Do you
and
remember
the room, he had a room,
the punk
which is
rock
funny
shirts?
because yeah, well, no, remember he had that like trash compactor room? Like it was a room you open the door and you could barely get in the room because there was this so like literally was looked like the trash compactor from Star Wars, which is funny because Red Leaders from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like it was all CDs,
Yep.
shirts. There was a drum set in there, but you literally couldn't walk in the room. Like, and one day I was in there like down the road and I was like, dude, what's that drum set doing there? And he's like, oh yeah, it's just, and it was like Pearl Masters custom set that I ended up using for a long time because I dug it out of that room and he
I
let me
remember
use it.
that. Oh my God, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember I think he had like a 7 seconds shirt that he got from when they were on tour. Because he was friends with all those bands, so he would just get these T-shirts and just throw them into this fucking room. And
He knew everybody. He had tons of contacts. He was a great guy. I actually miss that guy to this day, even though he won't talk to me. But
yeah,
what he did not have was money. So when we were like, hey, and we're gonna promote this record, go on tour, because he wanted us to,
yeah,
and he'd be like, yeah, this, and this were gonna happen, but you can't do those things without money. So it was good, but it was hard at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, because you guys became really good friends, and we had the record put out. And
Hmm.
what was the so okay? So we get the so Matt. So actually, this is a really funny story too. Do you remember when we were doing the art design at Go Kart Records like office in
Yeah,
the city?
I do.
Where
Yep.
it in hindsight, looking being a designer and having 8 people look over your shoulder to design the whole thing, I don't know how that person didn't fucking kill us. Granted, he did fuck up the entire file and we had to get it sent out to somebody else. But
Right.
from doing graphic design for all these years, I would never let a client sit there and watch me put together a fucking layout. And
Well,
that's what we did.
that was an example of how it worked, how dysfunctional that record label was. Like, we just went into Go Kart Records after hours with no one's permission. I just think because Matt worked there.
Yeah.
Some random guy I didn't know, like Matt's like, yeah, I got this guy, and he just sat there and chain smoked the whole time and did our layout. And I was like, okay, I guess this is how it works. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
know, like, but yeah, I could see, like, I could see how as a designer, you'd be like, what the hell is going on? I would never do that. But to us, that was, I guess, how you did things. I don't know.
Yeah, man. I mean, we were like, yeah, we're gonna go in for like an hour or two. He's gonna finish it up. I mean, that shit takes like weeks typically. I mean, if you're gonna really designing something, it can. So he fucked that up. I remember the file, he didn't save it or something like that, and we spent 8 hours. I think we left there like 6 in the morning, and so we finally get the artwork
Right.
done. We get the CD press. We go on tour without any CDs at all. It was like about a week with Saturday Supercade, which was awesome because we were like shooting fireworks at each other from like the vans. Remember you threw the Dr. Pepper through the window on the highway and it splashed all over Robbie Cade and all over their
Oh my
shit.
God. Yes, I do remember that.
Oh my God, that was fucking
That's
awesome.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's when we started to. 'Cause I mean, let's be real. Like we did not have you and I always got along, and it was just me and Chris always butted heads. You and Chris started butting heads. Heiner, I felt bad because Rob would just he didn't he I don't know he just didn't he just kind of stayed to himself. I felt like
Um,
Chris I don't think let him record on the CD, and he would just show up and play
right.
shows.
But Rob brought other things to the table. Of course, we know he like went crazy when we played and jumped around. That was always nice,
Yeah,
to have that energy. But he did form, like, he served as a buffer, let's just say. So when Chris was driving me crazy, then I'd go hang out with Rob, and then Rob would kind of like could then go to Chris and be like, all right, just relax or whatever he would say. And like, you and Chris would butt heads as like a brotherly thing. Chris and I would butt heads as like one day somebody's going to knock one of somebody out.
yeah,
So and looking back now, like, that's just how it was with us. And like, it's not that we didn't like each other. We just, he didn't want anybody telling him what to do, and I was, hey, do what I say.
yeah.
So,
You're like,
what I
I
mean?
book this tour. You will shut up and you will play my shows.
Yeah, because that was always the biggest fear, is like even local shows. I was like, okay, I'm gonna book all these shows. We're good, right, guys? Okay, yeah, cool. And then when the time comes, all right, is Chris gonna show up? Like, that was like my thing, like,
Yeah.
if you go through all that time and effort and you tell these people you're gonna show up, and then you might not.
Yeah, we had a lot of shows where I felt bad because you'd book all these things and then we'd have to cancel last minute just because I mean, I'm not gonna put it all on Chris's shoulders. I'm definitely gonna
Yeah,
interview
yeah,
him separately
right, right,
after that, get his point of view.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think that, and I'll talk more about the tours and stuff, but I think the biggest problem that we had is that we didn't have the same goal. Like, I think it was the first business partnership I always tell people that I had. And if everyone in the partnership isn't going in the same direction, it's going to fold. And I think that's just basically what happened to us. Like we never talked about like where we really wanted to be and like say like, well, what's it gonna take to get there? And
right.
I think that was a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we all weren't on the same page as far as like what we wanted. Like, I mean, I don't think any of us sat down and said, "Oh, we want to be like this giant band." Like, it would have been nice to always, success is nice, and it was good what we had. But like, and not to put it on Chris. Like, But I always felt like Chris was like afraid of success or something because I always had to like talk him into how good his songs were, how good his songwriting was.
Yeah.
Like he would show me all the songs and I'd be like, whoa, like honestly, never did Chris show me a song where I was like, wow, that sucks. Like never. Like every song I was like, wow, dude, that's like super catchy. That's really good. Like we need to work on that like right now. So always felt like I was, talking him into that he was good. I don't know if maybe he wasn't confident in himself or something. Like we've never had this conversation, him and I, but so maybe that's where him and I weren't on the same page.
Yeah.
Because I was always just so impressed by him, and I don't even know if I've ever told him this. So there you go, Chris.
I think you have. I think I've been in the same room where you've talked about
that. Yeah, I was always impressed by his songwriting and how catchy his songs could be and all that. But I was never impressed by like his work ethic or like confidence in the band or himself, whatever. So
yeah.
And then like you and I always were just like, hey, we kept it together when everything else was falling apart because we'd be dealing with Chris and then whatever random person was in the band. So we always had to like just be the balance.
Yeah, so I mean that kind of goes into like the other people. So we get back from the first tour. It's funny, I still have all the pictures. I was up in Jersey for Christmas, and I have this box that has every tour we've ever been on. So I literally have first tour all the way through the last tour in this box still, like physical pictures. I have to now digitize them and put them up.
God.
But I mean, yeah, man. I mean, we did that, and then we did the second tour with Rob. Because our van died in Lafayette when I was dating Emily at the time, so we're at Purdue. The fucking thing shits the bed, and we get a rider truck driving fucking back to Jersey.
Remember we sold the van or something? Yeah, we sold the van to like some farmer, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember going to this guy's farm to sell him the van. I don't know how we pulled that off to like be like, hey, we're gonna sell a dead van that's just sitting here, and then. Do you remember we saw that cow that had like all its insides like just hanging out?
No, you guys. I was at Purdue with Emily hanging out, and you guys took the van there. And I remember because you also had to take the tires back because we just bought the tires.
Yeah. So we took the tires off, put them in the.
But I remember about the cow story.
Yeah, the guy's like, the damn cow shit his asshole out. So we're like, what? Like everything, the poor cow's just laying there with all its organs on the outside of him. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
I'm like, let's get out of here quick.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I'm like, here's the van. I don't know what you gave us. It was probably a couple $100 for this stupid van that we took the tires off in front of him.
Holy shit. Yeah, I think you guys came back. We had the rider truck. You came back and picked me up, and you told me that story. And I think I was just so fried. And we were only on the road for like maybe 7 days, 8 days, but I remember just being so exhausted and so tired at that point. But yeah, so we load that shit up, drive all the way back to Jersey, play a show I think the next day, and but then we were like, all right, let's book the next one. So we do the next one. We go to Florida. Fucking the new van that we get that dies down there. We get another rider truck. And we come back up, and I think no, that one's sustained. We get back up, and then things won't work out with Rob, so it was kind of like he got wind that we were gonna kick him out, which is all hard because anyone that's like, I've known Rob and Chris since I was like 14 years old. We were best friends, so being in a band with guys that you're really friends with for a long time, it's not very easy, and it wasn't working out with Rob. And he got wind of it, so he quit. And we played a last show with him in Wayne Firehouse. And then we got Casey. No, we got Bettino.
We did?
Yeah, Bettino came in. Bettino played guitar, and we went on our third tour. And that's where the van died. Yeah, that's where this next van died. And yeah, so we did that. And then that's when we came back, and then shit just blew up between you, me, and Chris. And then we parted ways with, you left at the end of that tour at Planet Trog in Pennsylvania.
Oh, maybe that's why I blocked that out. I do remember that. And I remember Matt Red Leader driving from New York to Pennsylvania to pick me up because I refused to like drive back with you guys. I was like, fuck that.
Yeah. So we get back, you quit. It was like you're
gonna say I quit. Oh,
you got kicked out. You were gonna get kicked out. No, we were gonna kick you out, but you quit before we kicked you out.
Something like that. It seems to be the theme. Well, if Heiner got word of he's gonna get fired, Then Sean starts the band or whatever. He's gonna get fired. Okay, cool.
Let's get rid of the guy who books all these tours and and has his
So
shit
he's not the
together.
greatest at drums right now. He'll get better. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
God, dude, we were
He
such
spends all the time
assholes.
booking shows. He can't practice.
Oh man, that's the one theme I think I've said in every episode I've recorded. I was like, man, I was like we were such I feel like we were just so fucking jealous because we were just busting our butts and just not getting, we were on tour. It's like we'd show up and some shows were awesome and we played some really amazing shows, and then some shows were smaller, but then we'd see all the other bands that were on the road and they were getting bigger and we're like, what the fuck, like what aren't we doing? I just felt that the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably back then led the way with those kind of feelings because I was doing so much of the, business work, and then I'd see other bands that didn't seem like they were working as hard, maybe, but they caught a break, or they were doing the right thing at the right time, or kissing the right person's ass, and like, so it was like frustrating. And looking back, maybe we shouldn't have been like that. We all should have been like super supportive. Maybe they would have said, hey, instead of saying these guys are a bunch of fucking assholes, don't
Yeah.
help them, they would have said, hey, these are great guys and they're good too, you should help them out. Because I literally think our bad attitude like kind of hurt us for sure.
Oh, it destroyed us. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was just a representation of what we, again, it was just as a band, we didn't have that conversation where we wanted to go. So, I mean, I thought we wrote like good songs, and like the second album, when we wrote that, it was definitely, it was like, I don't know, it was music. I mean, it was like went in like a different direction musically, but, and it had this kind of like pissed off tone to it, I felt.
Well, the title of if there's a will, there's still nothing. I mean, that was how we were feeling. We were like, we're doing all this shit and we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
But maybe like who the hell were we to think like that? I don't know. And the bad attitude thing, like it was fun in a way also though, because it was fun for me to make fun of the other bands in a way, like writing on their posters at shows because we knew they were coming the next week after we were in a venue on tour. Like I thought that was fun.
Well,
But
that was like we were joking around with them, but there was definitely like something more behind that of like, oh God, I'm so pissed that you're like making it right now, you dicks.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, so I kind of liked our bad attitude. I thought it was like, kind of cool in a way. Like I'm not gonna say it was like a punk rock thing because it really wasn't. We were just assholes. But
Yeah.
but I kind of liked it. So but it definitely didn't help us. But
Yeah. I mean, I thought it translated into like the live show where I felt we'd have the whole day with each other and burned out or pissed off, but then we'd get up on stage and just like exploded,
right.
and we'd play. I remember one time so when you came, so you left right before we kicked you out, and then we ended up, then Chris found out how hard it was to book tours, and we go, all right, let's do one last tour. We'll have Bettino play drums, and and then Bettino played drums, and he hated it. He didn't want to do it anymore, so he was like, I'm quitting. Um, we had a practice at Bettino's house, so Chris came over. I go, yeah, so Dave's quitting, and so Chris literally turned right. He just got there, turned right back around, and left. And so I like catch up with him. He's like, dude, fuck this. I'm so over this. And we did the Humble tour, which was going to be the last tour. We reached out to you, and then you came on it, and we're like, let's just do this together. And we ended it. But at the end, we all decided, like, man, I think we should probably keep doing this. Where
Right.
Heiner was doing double duty. He was playing in Humble on bass and playing guitar with us. And we get back, and we're like, okay, let's keep this thing going. And so then we get Casey in, and we do the next record, and that's where I know,
Well,
yeah,
well, before you go there, let's step back. Okay.
yeah,
So when you say like I was asked to come back in the band, yeah, that's correct. So Chris said to himself, "Wow, this shit's hard. Like I don't know how to do this. Like every show I book, like it doesn't work out, whatever." And then so it wasn't like, "Hey, we really missed the way Sean plays drums." We were just like, "Wow." Like we need somebody that can get our shit together for us. Like we need the elder statesman, like whatever. So,
Well, no, I
but
mean, we asked you to do the last tour. I think there was definitely in there like, hey, dude, we're gonna do this final thing with Humble. You should come with us and do it.
sure.
Also, would you mind booking it?
Yeah, he's like, yeah. But the good thing about that was I do remember our first practice back, like for me to come back, and the whole I don't even know if you remember this, but so you're staring at me the whole practice, and I'm just like, what? Like I'm playing okay. Like I actually practiced, was like, let me get my shit back together. I can't have any flaws. Like I gotta look even better. So you're staring at me the whole time. And then at a certain point, you like grab your ear for a second. You're like covering your ear, and I'm like, wow, I must suck. Like he's covering his ear. And
I don't
I'm like,
remember this.
what's going on? And then after we finished like the first or second song, you were just like, The Rock is back, and I was like, what? And you were just like,
Yes.
man, you're like, I never realized how fucking hard you hit compared to the other, to Dave, who was, a very light hitter on the drums. Like, I just sounded louder and played more
I
dynamically.
totally
So then
remember that. Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, whoa, maybe I am a good drummer. Like maybe I have my own thing going on here. And from that day on, I was like super confident, and my drumming got immediately better. Where I was like, okay, I'm a drummer. Like that was a huge thing for me.
No shit. I never knew that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Oh, that's
just
awesome.
like, because I would always have Chris turning around. I was always afraid to like do this to the song or throw a fill here or do something fancy, because like if I fucked up that one part, the first time I ever tried it, which is gonna happen, like I would have you and Chris turning around like giving me like the mean like eyes, like what are you doing? So
Well,
I
it was
was
either
always
that or like if you were trying something different, we'd do that. Or if Chris tried to hit a note and fucked up, we'd all like cringe and be like, dude, do not sing that way at
yeah,
all.
yeah. So there's a lot of that. So but yeah, so that was a good moment and a good, that's when I started to feel like a drummer. So I guess that was cool. And I remember the end of that tour when our last couple shows were supposed to be our final shows, and like the one show, I don't remember where it was in New Jersey, was huge.
Yeah, it was 600 kids at that
Yeah,
Garfield.
yeah, and you were just like, hey guys, this is not a publicity stunt or anything, but we decided we're not gonna break up.
Yeah, and yeah, that was on video too, and people like just went nuts.
Right, right.
And
So
then
that's awesome.
yeah, that was I remember that because I remember all the drummers we had. We had Patino. He was like his rhythm was he was like very fast with his rhythm, but he just hit very light, and it just sounded so different when we'd play shows. And when you came back, I remember we got in the room when we started playing. I was like, holy shit! It just feels more full. It feels like it felt that it was back to where it should have been. And
Right.
yeah, I totally remember that. And it's like I wish we could have kept that excitement, but then we didn't.
Then we didn't.
Yeah, and then we go on more tours, which got better. I mean, we like
More tours.
we
More tours.
when more tours go to Sarasota, Florida. Always was a great shows there. I played I mean, we got to play at the Fireside. I mean, that's we got
That
to
was
play
pretty
that.
cool.
We got to play that a bunch of times, which is pretty amazing,
Right.
And
That was one of my favorites for sure.
oh, that was so amazing. Just in being in
Yeah, yeah.
Chicago, playing there was like holy crap. It's kind of like we're making it, and yeah. So basically, then we get back from the last tour. We're driving 6 o'clock in the morning from Pennsylvania after playing a show with the Ataris on Easter in
Hmm.
Pittsburgh, I think it was. We play the show, drive back home that night. We left like midnight. It's a 6 hour drive. It's like or seven or whatever it was. We left at 1 in the morning. Six in the morning. I'm driving. I've been driving for the entire time, and Casey's up with me. We've got Burger King crowns on because we're like losing our minds. And
I can't believe I remember that, but yes.
yeah, and Chris wakes up, and Heiner was our roadie, I think. And Chris wakes up and goes, "I don't want to do this anymore." And I think you and me almost immediately killed him, like wanted
Hmm.
to.
Hmm.
And then we get back. We had that meeting at my condo or my mom's condo, and just had that
All right.
explosion. Remember that? And like Chutney was there.
Right, right.
Yeah, because we were on Two Hep at the time. And
That'd be Andrew Courtney, another record label person that won't talk to me.
what happened to him? I heard he was like
I'm
managing
not
Bruce
sure.
Springsteen or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. Like along the lines of the bad attitude theme is reoccurring. We had bad attitude towards record labels too, right? Like, you're not doing enough. Like thinking we're better than we are or something, or bigger than we are, and then at a certain point, those guys just say, you know what, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
And because I was, the business guy, I got the brunt of that. So
Oh yeah, you
Andrew's
definitely
another
did.
another person I wish I still had a friendship with to this day, Matt and Andrew. But they were our record label people who probably don't like me. So
I ran into Matt at the Lifetime show back in like 2007, 2006, 2007, and we talked for a minute, and it was still
hmm,
like this. shit just isn't cool. I really would have liked it to be, because I mean, if I had, I said in another podcast, if I had the money that we basically just took the record from him, and I was like, if I had the money, I would just give it to him, and be like, here, man, I hope we're square, but I just don't. I don't even know what that would
Yeah.
be.
Well,
But it's
that's
like,
another facet of our bad attitude we don't need to talk about.
yeah. I mean, I'll own it. I mean, I talk about things. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
I was a big pain in the ass. I didn't understand any of this shit. But I mean,
Hmm.
now in hindsight, but if I think at the same time too is that if someone's still fucking mad at me about something, I've been in a room with my ex-wife and forgiven her. So I know what it's like to let shit go. If someone
Mhm.
has some pent up stuff, it's like that's on you, man. That's totally fucking on you.
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, I would rather be in a good spot, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm not gonna feel bad about it. It was a stupid decision back in the day, and
Right.
and now it's like I don't fucking care.
Yeah, I mean, we were young, even me being a little older than you guys, like I was young. I was still in my 20s when I said, "Hey, Mr. Record Label guy, we're just going to put this out because we want all the money because you're not doing shit." You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So, yeah, but uh you think people would get over stuff, but I think with Matt, like that first record he put out, that was like his baby, like his first child, so he's really probably upset. Maybe not today upset, but you know, for a good 10 years, he definitely, because I would run into him or somebody like you would run into him and say something, he would basically still just like be like, yeah, I'm never going to be friends with Sean ever again, and whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, going back to, I do remember the meeting at your mom's condo.
Yeah. Where
Um,
Casey almost like he basically started charging at Chris.
yes, I was going to say that because Casey, up until that point, he was always just like the nicest guy. Like, talk about somebody that balanced out a band. Like, he was just always goofy and
Hmm.
nice and never got mad. And like, I mean, I could probably would punch him in the dick and he'd be like, "Oh, good one, Sean." Like, he would never like he was never had a mean bone in his body. But
Yeah.
that day, I saw a side of Casey that I don't know that anybody wants to see.
Yeah.
So all you people that think Casey Lee Morgan, Mr. Nice, well-mannered gentleman from Florida, who I just saw for the first time in years the other day, by the way.
Newly married to Casey.
Yeah, newly married. Congrats, Casey. He had a side of him that was probably best described as scary because he was going to kill Chris.
Oh
Uh,
man.
he was going to kill him. So I never saw that side to him, and it was interesting.
Yeah, he I don't even know what it was. I mean, he was just quiet and we're all talking and Chris, I think he was on the staircase. I was up in a loft and we're all just hanging out and he just said something that just set Casey up and Casey got up and was like, "I'm going to fucking kill you" or something like that. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and we were like, "Holy shit." And then so I follow Chris outside and he's like, "Dude, he's like, I'm done. I'm not doing this." I'm like, "All right." And again, it's another conversation where if I talk to Chris and say he quit, he's like, "No, you kicked me out." Or no, or I think it's reverse where I say we kicked him out and he said, "No, I quit." It's never this whatever.
Oh,
It doesn't
please.
matter, but
That
it's
that
just
one that one's not correct. That me and Heiner, we both basically were kicked out at those times.
oh yeah,
Uh,
100%.
Chris, 150% quit.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he quit.
I think no, I
So
think that is no, I think that is his I think he does agree with that and I think I said that we were going to kick him out, but it
okay,
was but yeah, I mean
I don't know.
again, it's just like I don't care, but it's just fun for the podcast to talk about this stuff.
Right, right, right.
you know,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's like I couldn't tell you what made Casey like flip out like that. Like, but it was definitely like I mean, Chris couldn't have said anything towards Casey. I think Casey was just pissed that he thought if the band couldn't go on without Chris, and Chris thought the band couldn't go on without himself.
I think it might have
So,
been because he moved up to Jersey and left Florida and his
well,
like
yeah, yeah.
he
He
put all his
uprooted
chips in. Yeah, he put a bet on us.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly.
So
And
then, yeah.
Chris is the unspoken leader. He was like, "Hey, I need you to do this, and you're not going to do it."
Well, that was the frustrating part because it was he was the main songwriter. Like I wrote a couple songs, not as many as he did, but it was the dude. Like you're writing the bulk of this stuff. We really need to have you be around. We need you to be into it, and it just didn't work. So then that happens, and remember we go to Applebee's, and
Oh, the mighty bees, nice.
yeah, I think that's where I saw like no, yeah, Dom was working there like back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so we show up there, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna sing. I'll be the singer. and we were like, well, okay, like let's just find a guitar player. And then we went on a search. And did we try a lot of people before we found Brian?
Um, I don't remember trying anybody else besides Brian, really.
Yeah.
Uh, I think. Oh, wait, hold on. No, wait. Didn't we try like some sort of weird like, hey, Josh and Rob are gonna rejoin Lanemeyer, and we're gonna have like seven
Yes.
members. And yeah. So
Oh my God, I
that
forgot
that
about
that
that.
didn't work. Obviously, I think we went to practice like twice. There was like way too much going on. Josh, as good as he was or whatever, it didn't work. Like it didn't fit. And I think everybody involved knew it. We're just like, yeah, that's not going to work.
Oh my
So
God. Yeah, we
yeah,
practiced in your basement. Like I think it was one time.
yeah, I think it was like one time in my basement, one time in a studio because I remember trying like a couple covers that we wanted to do just to see if we could play together.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, and it was just like Josh. We're talking about Josh from Humble Beginnings. Like it was weird. It was too weird. Like it just
Yeah.
didn't work.
It just it didn't click. And but it was the good thing that we were just like, all right, that was a bad idea.
Yeah, yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
bad. Actually, that's super funny. So we find Brian, or you find Brian somehow. And
I did.
I think it was you. I think he reached
Okay.
out to you or you reached out to him, like one of the two. We go to the mall in the Garden State Mall and we're waiting for him. And I remember this to this day. We're sitting at the fountain and he like jumps up on the ledge and just like taps me on the shoulder and he was like, "So I hear you guys are looking for a guitar player," or something like that. Like something very
Hmm.
Brian-esque. And we went and practiced and it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was like 100% great, but there was something there that we were like, I think this will work. And then he joined the band. So then we start practicing. This is where the cover thing kind of reminded me. I couldn't hit Chris's notes that he wrote because they were so high.
Hmm.
And we did a cover. We wanted to do a cover of Say It or no, My Name Is Jonas. And Casey had learned it, and he goes, "Yeah, we have to tune our guitars a half step down because that's what they did." So we're practicing. I'm trying to hit the notes that Chris sang. I can't for the life of me do it. We try the My Name Is Jonas song. It's not that great. And then we were like, let's keep in this tuning. And then we started playing Chris's songs, and I was nailing the notes. And that's when we
Hmm.
started to tune a half step down. Do you remember that at
I
all?
remember. I do remember that. I remember things not clicking at first, where I thought, okay, maybe this isn't going to work. Maybe we are done.
Yeah.
Brian Fallon, we're talking about, of Gaslight Anthem.
Yeah.
He was not Brian Fallon of Gaslight Anthem at that time. He had bad equipment, which is fine because,
We all did.
nobody had any money. Yeah, we all did. But I mean, but we had, you guys had better equipment than he did, because we would spend our band money on making sure you guys had good, heads and cabinets for your stuff. Brian had like that blue voodoo
Epiphone.
weird. Yeah, I don't know what he had.
He had an Epiphone guitar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to his disadvantage, he was trying to sing like you and Chris,
Yeah.
kind of where we all know that's not how he sings, at least back then. But so it was weird at first, but I don't know that it ever clicked 100% with Brian because I don't think he ever wanted to play the kind of music that we were playing.
No.
Um, granted, he was, I never heard him once say the words Bruce Springsteen. I know that that's like his thing now or whatever, but
Yeah.
he never spoke about Bruce to me. All I ever heard about was Hot Water Music. So that's what he wanted to sound like, I think, back then.
Well, yeah. Well, he
So
was all
that
his
was not
bands. Well, his bands before that, he was like Surrogate McKenzie. Was that his band? That was the band he
uh,
was in
yeah,
before joining us.
I don't know any of the band names, I don't think, but
Yeah, I mean, Hot Water was his thing.
yeah.
He was always writing, but yeah, man. I mean, he shows up, he plays, and like, yeah, it wasn't like 1,000. I keep saying 1,000%, like that means anything. Like 100% there, but it
Mhm.
was good enough where, he wanted. At the end of the day, he wanted to be, who he knew where he wanted to be, which he
Sure.
led him till today. But I think then it was,
Yeah.
it was, hey man, just play the songs. I think Casey got him really fucking good on guitar, and
Yeah.
basically became the lead guitarist. And I
Mhm.
think the sound's good. There's a video that we have. We played someplace. I think it's in St. Louis. It's online, and it sounds
Yeah, that's like
fucking good.
really good. That's like the one video. Like if somebody always goes, "Well, what did your old band sound like?" or whatever, that's the one video I can actually stomach to show them because it sounds really good, like
Yeah.
crazy good. So you would think if we sounded like that all the time, but yeah, that was really really good, really good. And when you look at Brian in that video, it fits there, like you know. But I guess I think about times where I was like, wow, this doesn't really work, like in a weird way. It was working, but it didn't work.
I totally, yeah, there was something about the sound sometimes, or we just didn't click on stage, and we definitely weren't getting along on the tour, like behind the scenes. Especially when we were on the road. I mean, that's what basically broke us. That last tour with the Lawrence Arms, that was
that
like
was too long.
that was too long. It was supposed to be like 2.5 months. I think we ended up making it like 9 weeks or something, or 8 weeks.
I don't know. It was long. I remember you and Brian not getting along very well in that tour.
Yeah.
I got along with Brian. He never bothered me. I kind of just avoided him. He was like a weirdo to me. So I was like, okay, go sit in the van with your little pen light and do whatever you're doing. That's cool.
Yeah, he was always right. That's where he was always writing his songs, but I
Yeah.
think he knew he wanted to sing. I remember he took me aside. We played our show in Buffalo. We walk outside and he's like, dude, I don't know if I could do this. He's like, you guys are fucking bitches. And I literally had to talk him into staying. And this was, Christ, day 3, I think. And I'm like, dude, don't leave. Like, stay in the van and we'll work things out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I remember this. I remember I had to talk him into like not wanting to quit. And then Casey during the middle of that, he wanted to quit. It was just it was a bomb that wanted, and right at the time, I think when we finally sounded really fucking good, it was just there was no turning back. Like this shit was basically like a ticking time bomb. I felt at that point.
Yeah, but it's funny because that tour, like, back in the day when we would tour, you would think that, we'd all be, getting drunk and doing all stuff, which I guess we did. But like me, I never really did because I was like, well, if I mess up playing drums, like we're all fucked, So I didn't drink a lot. If I did, it was like after the show or on a day off, whatever. But I remember that tour. So you're saying like pretty much everybody in the band wanted to quit. Well, I started like drinking that tour a lot. Like I was like, I didn't care anymore. I was like, because I guess I was like, I'm just going to have fun because this could all end tomorrow. And I guess maybe I knew like that was going to be the last tour or whatever. So I just started like just partying and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it was my way of dealing with like, all the dynamics of the band and, everybody arguing or being, the bad attitude thing again. So yeah, that was my way. I didn't say I was going to quit or do anything crazy. I just was like, oh, I'm just going to keep drinking beer. It's cool.
I think I noticed that because we had just turned 21. We were just turned 20, so we could legally drink. Because every other tour, you were basically had to buy us beers, or like we'd give you money to buy beers for us. Or Chris would always drink at the bar after, and I just was like, "There's no way I'm going to be able to get a beer at the bar. I just don't look like I'm anywhere near 21." And but yeah, the same thing. Like I would always drink after the show. But I remember that tour. I mean, so many crazy things happened. Remember that time we thought we were dead when we were in Laramie, Wyoming?
Oh my God.
Remember who was the roadie for Lawrence Arms?
Was that Ryan?
Ryan. Yeah, Ryan. We show up in Laramie, Wyoming, and we're eating burritos or something at that dude's restaurant from that band, that drummer. And he's like, yeah, we have a theory that we all died last night. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. And I don't know why. I'm like, oh my God. I have been calling people. No one's been picking up.
Because like we were in Laramie and we were just like, what is this place? And I mean, you know who that drummer was, right?
Rocket.
Yeah, okay. Teenage Bottle Rocket.
Yeah.
Brandon, he passed away. And ironically enough, like I spent a little amount of time in Laramie because I started dating someone from there who actually used to date that same guy.
Yeah.
I dated her after she dated him, so it's kind of weird to look back, but like I just remember Laramie, we felt like there, and like Corpus Christi, Texas. I remember those two places. I was like, where are we? Are we like, it was like a Twilight Zone kind of feeling. It was those two places freaked me out. So.
Yeah, it was like we were in an episode of fucking Lost or something.
Yeah. So I do remember that, and I remember the show getting canceled in Laramie, and then that's how we ended up at my ex-girlfriend Adrian's apartment there, and
partying our asses off. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah, that goes along with it though, because there was, we'd get hammered every night, after the show. I mean, we would just go fucking balls out and get smashed, and that sustained. And then I think I'd say, then, it was an awesome tour. I mean, first time we had been in the Northwest. We drove across all the way to California. That's the first time we had driven. I think that was the first time I'd ever been there. No, I was there when I was younger, but that's the first time we drove. I remember crossing the border and we played that pizza place in Bakersfield, and then we played that show with shit, man. It was like Link 80 up in close to San Francisco. But but then it just started. I mean, I thought we were tight as fuck, and we played that show with Newfound Glory. That's when. And so this is funny. So Chris, he quits the band, moves to California, ends up going to our show at Fado Do in basically Compton.
It was Compton, yes.
And drive-throughs there. We get up and play. We're the first band. Every kid is just scattered. And I remember after the first song, all of them were in front of the stage. And then Newfound Glory is off to the side singing the songs back. And I'm like, man, I think this is like finally working out. And Joe from Kung Fu was like supposed to show up, and he never did.
Mm-hmm.
And but I remember Richard talked to Chris afterwards, and he's like, I think this is the best I've ever heard them play. And Chris got so funny. He got like hammered, like lost his wallet, his car. Just his whole story afterwards was just so fucked. Remember, he took the picture of us for those girls watching the band.
Right. I do remember that.
I was like, what a shitty night for this dude right now.
Yeah. I also remember that night was one of the girls that was in one of the Real Worlds on MTV was at the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the beginning of the night, she's like, "Oh yeah, I love you guys. Like, you guys need to stay with me tonight." And then by the end of the night, you had her so freaked out because you were like all over, like, "Oh my god, I love the Real World," or whatever you're saying to her. She's like, "Yeah, you guys can't stay with me anymore."
Yep. I have the Polaroids. She was there. I was like, "Can we take a Polaroid together?" She's like, "Yeah," because Julia was with us, roadieing, and we So she had the Polaroids, and she took a picture, and I still have it, and we still take the picture. And I think the next one, I took another one with her, and you see her face is kind of like, all right, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And I just kept following around like, you gotta hang out with us. Oh, it was so bad. Or I think she started dating Chad from Newfound Glory. I think that's why she was there.
Yeah, or she had dated him, something with him. For sure.
I think they were both really into God at the time, or in general.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely freaked her out.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I mean, we get home, and then Brian just decided he fucking had it, and then that was it. I think that's pretty much. I think we had played a couple shows. We recorded those 4 songs, and in Pennsylvania, and then that was pretty much it. And then Brian just was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do this anymore." He quits, and then you and me were on like Instant Messenger or some shit in May. And I think I messaged you. So I messaged
AOL?
you. Yeah, it was AOL. And you were like, "Hey man, so what are you thinking?" And I wrote, remember? Okay, so this is really funny. Remember when you'd leave, there'd be that slamming door sound when you'd leave AOL?
Yeah.
So you go, "Hey man," and we're typing, and I'm in Blairstown and you're in Fairlawn. We're about an hour from each other. And you go, "Hey man, so are you still in the? We still gonna do this?" And I wrote back something like, "You know what, dude? I think I'm done." And all of a sudden, the door slam sound happened, and you were off. And I thought you were driving to kill me. I'm not kidding. I was like, "Oh my god, he is on his way to fucking kill me right now." And you basically just got kicked off, and you come back and go, "Oh, sorry, dude, I got kicked off." I'm like, "Oh my god."
Oh, okay. No, I know what really happened was I was getting my weapons together, and then I came to my senses and went back on America Online to talk to you again.
Yeah, man. I mean, I literally felt that, and that was it. I mean, our last show was in Jefferson.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think I was pretty much over it too. I remember I got very bitter about music in general. I didn't want to go to shows anymore. I certainly didn't want to play, to the point where it like sort of affected my relationship. Like my girlfriend was like, "Hey, this band's playing," and I'd be like, "Yeah, that's cool. Have fun. I'm not going." And
Yeah.
I remember her going to shows like I'd be like, "Hey, Brian will go. Like, I know Brian likes that shitty band. Why don't you go with him?" And like her and Brian Fallon would go to shows, and I'd be like, "See ya. I'm gonna go play hockey or do something." I just was so over it.
No shit. I didn't know that.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't know how long that lasted, where I just didn't want anything to do with music, but it was probably a good amount of time. So I mean, which is probably, I mean, I think I probably wanted the band to keep going, but I think I probably thought once you were, not into it anymore, that was definitely it. But or it probably just had run its course. But I guess the one thing I would always think, especially looking back now, is like we should have just said, okay, let's just stop. Like, let's not break up. Let's just stop
Yeah.
and do like what all the bands do. They just never say that they broke up. You just stop, and then maybe like a year or two later, you get the feeling again. I mean, obviously, we did kind of do like a little reunion thing here and there, but um, I think some bands that are at the way we were at that level, however that level was, I don't know where it was, but you could just stop and eventually you could do it again and you could be, the same, if not bigger, because you left people thinking like, what happened to that band? So that was the one sort of, if there was a regret, I think we should have done that. But then again, who would have come back to the band if somebody years later said, hey, what happened to that band? I'm going to book them. Like who would have been the band members? I'm not sure. Would Chris want back in at that point? Who knows? But
Yeah. Yeah. I think it had run its course. I think it was a time where we really wanted to do it and we made it happen. But I mean, I just think just the band in general, like, we got together and did, some reunion shows, and then we did reunion shows where it ended poorly, and it was just sometimes I'm like, it's like I think it's like if you live with somebody you're friends with, right? Sometimes it could work out really well, and or sometimes you can be like, man, we should just be friends and not be roommates, or we should not be in a collaboration where our futures are kind of intertwined with each other at the moment. So
right.
like I think that was probably it, because for me, all I want to do is just play giant shows and tour forever. That's all I want to do. And I think, being 5 years older, I think you felt more of a stress, which is really fucking funny now. If I look back to when I was 24, or looking back to 24-year-olds now, I'm like, you shouldn't have a fucking giant life direction right now. I mean, that happens in your 30s. You should just.
Right.
And I feel you felt like all this pressure, like you had to be somewhere because you were in your 20s, and I think that carried along. And Chris, I think you're right. I think that he was afraid of success. He wasn't like very confident in his songs. But I think he found that later on with Date the Fair stuff. Even then, I think it kind of was. He might have struggled with that. But then, yeah, there was just all these different things that were pulling in all directions. But I think the good thing is that, we definitely had our dips where we wouldn't talk, and then we would talk, and then we wouldn't talk. But I think not playing is probably the best decision as a group, to be
Yeah, I
friends,
mean,
or like actually be able to communicate with each other.
yeah, I mean, I think at this point, playing is not an issue, like playing or not playing. The good thing is, all of us, the core group of guys, you, myself, Chris, Casey, Rob, um, we could go through anything, not talk for a while, whatever the deal is. But then if you put us in the same room together, we're like, best friends again. So it's like you just have that sort of brotherly bond. I mean, everybody's gone, every member of the band has gone through like some weird dynamic of their friendship, and it all just comes back again. It comes to be fine. So that's the kind of cool thing, is like you have a bond with somebody. We could be 80 and we could be like, oh, 1997, Shower with Goat show. That was our first show. Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's kind of cool. So, but yeah, some things, I don't know, like we can't all be, have like these long careers in music. I mean, I don't even like, I can't remember last time I touched a drumstick. So,
Yeah, I moved out to California. I moved back from California, and I had a bad breakup, and I wrote these 5 acoustic songs, which I was pretty proud of, and they didn't go anywhere. But that was pretty much it. Like, I never got that bug again to want to go on tour. It never. It left me, and I think my creative
mhm.
outlet just became starting my business and just doing graphic design and doing video and animation and shit. And that's kind of like my new way of writing music. And I think this podcast actually is more of my way of, is kind of an album in a sense, where it's in a different way. It's kind of going back then and reconnecting to it, because I think I don't know if it's because I'm almost 40 or because it was 20 years ago, or just because of shitty life things. But I think this is my new way of putting something out that I think people will connect to, and I'm not doing it for that reason, but I think other people are appreciating it. But for me, it's, this is about as close as I want to get to it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think it's cool that you're doing this. You know, the scene that we were in at that time period, late '90s, whatever. I think it was pretty unique in a lot of the bands that came out around that time, and even bands that are still kind of doing stuff today. I think it was a unique group of bands, and if you're doing things before, like we were talking about, before Napster, before MySpace, all that kind of stuff. It was a purer form of everything. Like we actually had to record demo cassettes.
Yeah.
Right. And do low budget things. Now these bands obviously can get their MacBook out and record something pretty good sounding. Where we had our $2 demo, right? It sounded like shit, but like we were so proud of it. Like,
Yeah.
and we made our T-shirts and all that stuff. I mean, it was a really, really cool time to be in a band in New Jersey. And I just, I look back on it, very fondly. It's a really, really cool thing. Like, I don't know what I would have done with my life. I mean, granted, being in a band is an excuse to fuck off for however many years, right? Like, we're not working real jobs. We're not doing anything important. We're just having fun. But that's great because that's what you're supposed to do at that age. And like when you're saying, so I was older, I was 24 or whatever when we started, and I was working like a real job. And I was like, I know this isn't what I'm going to do. I'm not going to manage a friggin' Hot Topic until I'm old. And as much as I had unrealistic expectations of life in my 20s, like, oh, I'm supposed to get married, I'm supposed to do this shit. Like thank God I didn't do any of that stuff because I was too busy having a good time. And that's pretty much still kind of how I look at life in a different way. Me being, over 40. You're still not 40 yet, but
I'm close. My birthday's I'll be 39 in about 2 months.
Yeah. But I'm the same as you with music. Like I don't really play drums anymore. When you're a drummer, you're always a drummer because like it's always in your head. You're listening to music, you're playing drums in your head. It's different than guitar, right?
Yeah.
So, but I do play a lot of guitar at home now, and somewhere along the lines, I realized I could sing and play guitar and wrote some songs for some bands I was in Florida and everything. And maybe in the '90s, if we were in New Jersey, would have been okay because I think some of the stuff was good, but now I don't have that kind of time to do what we were doing back then. Like, and I commend people that are still doing it. They're really into music and writing the songs. Like in my head, I'm in 5 different bands, or I want to be in 5 different. Oh, I want to be in a band that sounds like this or this or this. And I go, I'm going to do it today. I'm going to come home. I'm going to start writing more songs. And then I come home and I go, well, I got some work to do, and there's a really good thing on TV, and there's a hockey game I want to watch. Like, I just don't do it anymore. And it doesn't mean I don't love it, but I don't put that kind of effort into it. And maybe one day I'll be in some sort of music thing again, a project. But for right now, I'm right there with you. Like this, you're doing more than me. You're putting this out to the world, and some people are probably really going to appreciate this, and other people definitely tuned out by now. They're like, we don't give a fuck about Lanemeyer. What the hell are we listening to?
That's fine though. That's the point. It's I think the main thing that I've held on to is I try to, and I wrote the intro for what this thing's going to be. The first episode is basically going to be just me talking about why I'm doing this. It'll be like maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and because every other show is like an hour. I mean, we're at like an hour and 18 minutes right now. But I'm not doing this for anybody else, and I think that's also my life. Like I've had my own business. I've worked for myself since 2006, and maybe I'm not in the punk rock scene, or I'm not in a band, but I've kind of mirrored it with just my lifestyle in general. Like I still, it's not like I'm rebelling against a system. There's no system to rebel against, but I am rebelling against working a shitty job and working for somebody else and not doing my own thing and not testing it. And it's like scary at times, but I think at the same time, like I've done the same thing. With your business, you've had that, so you have a house of merch, and that's been your thing since what, like 2005. Yeah, like we started that together, and it was a different idea. And then we stopped working together, and you just ran with it because I think you combined you saw that thing with eBay and selling shirts and stuff, and then the house of merch. So, but you're still connected to like the music scene through that in a sense, because your shirts.
Yeah, I mean, I did something really stupid in 2005 by opening up a record store, as you know, in Florida.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that snowballed into me selling band merchandise in the store because, obviously I couldn't make it on just CDs and records alone. We did shows in there. We started selling fan merch that snowballed into, selling on eBay again, because I always did that at my own website. But, basically, yeah, exactly what you just said. Like, my business has changed over the years, but it is like not wanting to work that corporate job. It is sort of the underlying punk rock theme. Like I never wanted to be accountable to somebody else's schedule or whatever. So for me to have my own business, for this long, since 2005, it's great because I haven't had to work for anybody.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's difficult. There's things that that are tough for me to do every day with my business, but every ounce of energy and work goes back into my pocket. So it's awesome. And, that's worth a certain amount of money per year, I guess you could say, because you're not working, some 9 to 5 or so.
Well, you also get to make your own schedule, Like I'm in the middle of a work day and I'm spending an hour and a half talking about the punk rock scene.
Too, yeah.
You're pretty much like the only person. Actually, no. Like you and Anthony Annoyance were the only two people that actually could talk to midday. Everyone wants to talk to like 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, come on, man. I'm checked out by 5. I don't want to do anything at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. All right. So I'm gonna wrap this up. And I have a couple.
You said it all.
I have a bunch of questions. We said it all. Just like that's it. I just
said it all. In the words of Howard Stern, you've said it all. You've said too much.
Said an hour and 20 minutes worth of shit. What Lanemeyer song was your favorite?
Ooh, wow. To play?
I don't know. Yeah, to play and to listen to. So it could be different. It could be two different ones.
I mean, like I always have like a little sentimental thing, like "What a Shitty Summer," because I don't know if it's my favorite song, like as far as like how good it is compared to other songs, but I always really loved playing it live because everybody would sing along.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, like the Grover's Corner song was pretty cool because I liked playing it, and it was like not the most popular song, but it like kind of rocked,
The rock song.
Yeah, the rock song. Yeah. Oh, right. It was called the rock song, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, and I liked, believe it or not, I liked, the songs that no one really heard, like the new songs that you wrote. Like I always loved. I don't even know what they're called. Did they have names? I'm not sure. Every road leads to Bootin', right?
Yeah.
I really, really liked that song. But of course, that's not a song that people know as much. But
what song's about Chris? That song's about Chris.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But I just remember coming up with that cool little drum part and the little like. I guess like the bridge.
In the middle, or it's like that weird kind of breakdown.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I don't know. So.
Have you ever listened to any of the songs like in the last couple of years? Just randomly had them on your iPod or something?
I don't think so, but I've listened to like that YouTube show we were talking about in St. Louis. I think I have that on when I was working a couple times. And I mean, there's definitely been times throughout the years I've like, kind of brushed up and just like, oh, let me hear how that sounds now compared to like the recordings of the day, to kind of listen to that. But, I don't know. I get sentimental, but I don't with that stuff. So I don't go back and like rehash that. But I mean, I have some cool like tour posters on my walls and stuff. So that's the kind of stuff I really enjoy having, like just the random like memories.
Oh, really? Stuff. You still have some of those?
Yeah, like I have like the Weston Lanemeyer reunion show poster that somebody made, like a screen printed poster.
Oh, I did that.
Oh, you did that? Okay, cool. I have our like promo, from the If There's a Will record. I have that.
Which,
promo.
By the way, I think just real quick about the album art, the cover of that was my girlfriend at the time, Emily's best friend, took that photo, and that's of a little girl, I think in Indiana, and in front of her house that just got destroyed by a tornado.
Right.
So if everyone wanted to know
that. Again, our underlying theme of woe is me, bad attitude.
Oh yeah.
Why can't we win? I don't know.
Girls suck. Why are they ruining my life?
Girls suck. Everything's a mess. Oh God. So yeah, I like having that stuff. That's cool. I wish I had some of like the cool T-shirts that we printed over the years. I know people post that stuff on Facebook, and I'm always like, oh man, I want that. But
yeah, Seth, who designed those, he's in that the North Jersey group on Facebook. I didn't know that he did that. I think we had a conversation a couple years ago, and I'm like, wait, you did the Oscar Mayer shirt. He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, shit, dude,
Oh,
that's
dude, I don't even
crazy.
remember that. It's crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that T-shirt.
One thing that we need to do, like Jeremy Hernandez had a pretty good idea. Jeremy from Humble
Yeah.
Bigwig. He said, we should cut all this like reunion show crap out, because we're, getting to the point where it's like a little ridiculous. But what we should do is have like somebody just rent like a hall or something like in a hotel and just have like a giant get together of like all the band members, just like, have like an open bar kind of
Oh my
situation, just
God,
have everybody
yeah.
come and just hang out and have like those random people that you forget or you won't recognize today, like, somebody like you're just talking about, or just anybody that wants to come, like people that just went to shows and we probably at this point have to wear like name tags so we know who the hell everybody is, but like that would be awesome. Like do you remember, like, and this is probably only relevant to us, but like when we first started, we had this kid, I think his name was Brandon or Brian. We called him
Brandon. Oh my
the
God,
fan.
super fan
So,
Brandon.
dude, so he went to like, I mean, there back in the early 90s or the late 90s our early days, there was not a Lanemeyer show that he was not at.
Yep.
Like he was at every single show, and then just one day the kid disappeared. Like he might have died. Like I have no idea. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like he literally just dropped off the face of the earth. So like, can you imagine if people like that showed up to something like, some kind of cool party meeting? That'd be pretty sweet. So.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I'm putting all my time and money into doing this podcast, so you guys figure that shit out.
Yeah, I'll get with Jeremy and see what he says.
Yeah, man. I think I would be totally. I mean, I rarely want to go back to Jersey for any reason, but
Oh,
I
come
just might be down for that. It's just a long
Well,
drive, and I hate flying.
yeah. Well, like I said, I'm back in Jersey a lot right now. So if people are listening to this, hit me up. Let's hang out in Jersey.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
All right. So before we go, one last shout out. So we just talked about it, but where can give your business a shout out? Where can people find you?
Oh man, I mean, we're all over Amazon. So there right now there's no more houseofmerch.com because it just became kind of too much work because Amazon is king right now. So one thing I'm doing that I've started in the last couple years, that again the website's down for this right now too, but it's on Amazon. So I'm a huge hockey guy. I've been playing hockey and now I coach high school down here on the side too. Like,
Yeah, no shit.
yeah, I coach one of the high schools. I don't get paid. I'm volunteering, so I'm giving back, man. See, you gotta give back a little bit.
Got to give back the scene.
Yeah, give back. Yeah. So I started a hockey apparel company where it's like a lifestyle brand for hockey. So it's called Hockey Culture Apparel. You can find that on Amazon right now, but it's basically like, I always compare it to like, when you go to the mall and there's like O'Neill and Billabong are like surfer brands. Well, it's a brand for hockey players, so
Cool.
it's similar to that. And so it just kind of like a passion project. So that's one of the things that I try to promote whenever I can, I guess. The other stuff, I mean, whatever. But that's my thing.
Is this one of them? The Hockey Culture Apparel. It's like an old ice skate on a green shirt.
Oh yeah, that's a great shirt. It's like a vintage looking. It has like rips in the shirt on purpose, so it's supposed to look like you found it in your closet. And it's like a super old hockey shirt. That's
Oh,
a
that's
good one.
cool, man. I like it.
Yeah. So,
I dig it.
it's pretty big right now in the ball hockey community because I grew up a ball hockey player. I didn't start playing ice hockey till later. So a lot of the USA guys wear all the stuff, and we sponsor the team and stuff. So that's pretty cool.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate the time, and I hope that you make this punk rock reunion happen.
Oh, now you're putting the pressure on me to do it?
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, we'll see what we can do then. I'm gonna have to have I'm calling out Jeremy Hernandez on this because it was sort of his idea, and I'm gonna need his help then if we're gonna do it.